sure, as you can see, it's bumper.
Got a bird's eye view, and it certainly doesn't look good from up here.
The tank is full, the engine's humming. Those wide open roads are beckoning. So sit back and get ready for Motoring 88. Brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. This week on Motoring 88.
If you're saying it's a sport, there's people out there that come out and they'll race just because it's a sport. But if it's a hobby, it's here for fun.
We do our pre-planning really back in September of last year, and the plan that we pulled together seems to be working now, and it's coming right on schedule.
Harley Beach in the province of New Brunswick. Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Motoring 88. That's right, we are in the Maritimes this week. It's not exactly bikini weather, but we hope to check out some of the sights and sounds of New Brunswick over the next half hour. But first, Sandra Neal is going to get things started. She has a story about small cars, really small.
These race cars may be small, but their price tags certainly aren't. Remote control cars can cost thousands of dollars, but these kids love it. Now, you don't have your driver's license yet, do you?
No, I don't.
You just have your remote control license?
Yes.
What do you like about this sport?
Well, it's very interesting. It can keep me quiet because of my parents.
Now, your tires seem to have spikes. Does that give it an edge?
Yes, it helps it get traction on the track because it digs it up and makes it go a lot faster.
Did you put this all together by yourself?
Yes, I did.
How did you manage that?
Well, it was quite easy, actually. You just have a couple of screwdrivers and wrenches and just look at the manual and put it together. I had to borrow my friend's paint to paint it.
This is an expensive sport, isn't it? Do you pay for your own cars?
Well, yeah, I paid for half of this.
That's okay. How much is half, approximately?
Well, I had 119 and it was 150, so my mom paid the rest.
Basically, they come in and we try to suit them up with a car that fits them. They may go two-wheel drive, they may go four-wheel drive, depending on where they're going to run and if they're going to get into competition or not.
Is there a minimum age, maximum age?
No minimum, no maximum. We get them from as young as 6, 7 years old up to about 55.
What price ranges are we talking about to get involved with the cars?
They start off at about $275, and they can go up to thousands of dollars. But not necessarily can you come in and buy something that's $2,000 or $1,000 and say, well, I'm going to be the best in Canada. It doesn't work out that way.
Is it a hobby or is it a sport?
It is a hobby, but it is becoming fast a sport because the kids like to come down and compete against each other.
Marshal's ready, driver's ready, go!
It's fun racing, but sometimes you get nervous on the big races. But I like playing around with it. I never play on the street with it because it'll just ruin it. I started off with a cheaper car, the Hornet, and then I went into a more expensive car, the Turbo Optima. And then everyone changed cars, so I wasn't winning any races, so I bought this.
Well, he's a very competitive boy, and we all started as just a hobby, but as he was racing his cars and he felt that he could compete with some of the better drivers and better racers, we got into racing. And then it becomes a little more serious than your average fun type of event. Here, let me try. The nice thing about it is that I'm spending more time with him than I ever did before, and I know where he is.
I drive for Tamiya. They're sponsored in Canada by Borgfeld Limited, and they supply me with all my cars, and I go out there and race for them.
Do you feel that this sport can get really big?
I wouldn't call it a sport. I'd say it's a hobby. If you're saying it's a sport, there's people out there that come out and they'll race just because it's a sport. But if it's a hobby, it's here for fun.
Just remember one thing, is if it flips over, don't give it throttle, okay? Because if the marshal goes to pick it up, he could get hurt with the wheels turning, okay? So let him flip it back and then you can take off from there, okay?
Ready?
Don't be nervous, you'll be all right.
Marshal's ready. Driver's ready. Go.
You can get up to 30 miles an hour on some of these cars.
Why do you think they do so well with the remote control cars?
Kids have always had great reflexes, video games, good practice for them. They come here and they're pretty quick.
Are remote control cars taking over the skateboard and the video game syndrome?
Well, they're taking over the video games, but not really the skateboard. They skateboard to get here.
Will we see these boys in Formula One racing?
That's those real cars, right?
Yeah.
Probably not. They're a little more expensive than these.
Last thing I repaired in my car would have to be my windshield.
Muffler. Oh, on the road, yeah, muffler.
Yeah, I repaired the windshield washer motor and replaced it.
My air conditioning unit. Oh, I can't remember, but I don't think so. I change anything. I change my car every 2 years or so.
Still ahead on Motoring 88, the Indy cars get ready to challenge Toronto. Where are the keys?
Next on Motoring 88, power to all four wheels.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. The engine in the new Quaker State Porsche Indy car develops 750 horsepower. That's why it takes Quaker State oil with new QSX to protect it. At 11,000 RPM, engine temperatures soar. Quaker State's new advanced QSX formula is proven to run clean for unbeatable protection. And the new QSX formula that protects this engine on the track is the same Quaker State you buy right off the shelf. Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want a V6 engine. A powerful V6 engine. What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want to help someone move.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive, we're looking at the 1988 Toyota Celica. And this Celica is anything but your usual Celica. Under the hood, there's an intercooled, turbocharged, 16-valve, twin-cam engine. Now, if that wasn't so much of a mouthful, the four-wheel drive system that they use is full-time. Most people think of four-wheel drive as an option you buy to use at the cottage or off-road. Well, the vehicle we're testing this week is a four-wheel drive vehicle that's designed for exclusive use on the road. At the heart of this full-time system is a viscous coupling. What it does is eliminate the guesswork, because if one wheel begins to spin on ice or snow, the coupling diverts the power to the wheel or wheels that can use it best. On the road, the four-wheel drive system also helps to give a much more stable feel than you would normally get from a vehicle like this. It'd be interesting to see if the four-wheel drive system has a tendency to wind up during sharp maneuvers. Well, it's not doing so far, and I guess that's because of the center viscous coupling, which allows the drive to be split to whichever set of wheels needs the drive. One of the things I did notice about this when running through the pylons is the fact that it's a heavy car, mainly because of all the extra components that are underneath the vehicle, giving it the four-wheel drive capability, but it's heavy. With the all-wheel drive system, it makes it virtually impossible to waste any horsepower in wheel spins, so it should be interesting to see exactly how fast this Celica is. .8 seconds is quick. This is the fastest Celica to date. Now it's time for the brake test, and for that we're going to use our old decelerometer to measure the brake efficiency. Once we reach speed, I'm going to hit the brakes and see how well the ABS works on this Celica. Here we go. Very respectable. That'll be about 98 feet.
My pet peeve this week is with the headlights. When they're off, you can see the aerodynamic form, the looks are all there. Very nice looking car. The instant you turn on the headlights, you destroy the looks and the aerodynamic shape of the vehicle. A shame. Let's go to the scoreboard and see how I rated the four-wheel drive Celica. As with all of the cars I've tested that featured anti-lock brakes, the Celica stopped perfectly, and so I awarded a high 8 out of 10. In the handling department, again the Celica fared very well, due in part to the four-wheel drive system. At 8.8 seconds to reach 100 kilometers an hour, there's certainly no lack of power. The sound level is acceptable until you reach the upper reaches of the rev range, which is where you'll find the power, but you also find a lot more noise. The Celica is a heavy car, as well as being turbocharged and featuring four-wheel drive, and so at 24 miles per gallon, the Celica is fairly thirsty.
2 sets of tire marks made while swerving around an obstacle by a car. There is obviously a difference in performance here. The solution? Something you can get for free. We'll show you later on Behind the Wheel.
When Motoring 88 returns, Bill Gardner has the truth on the turbo.
Well, standing by is our resident mechanic, Bill Gardner. But before we join Bill, I want you to meet Moncton's Reg Boucher and his baby. Reg!
Hey, Grant, how are you?
How are you, Reg? Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you. Welcome to Moncton.
Thank you. Tell me a little bit about your baby here.
Well, baby, she's a 35 Chev Coupe Master. That's like means without a rumble seat. She runs a 350 with an Ellebrock high-rise and a Rochester Quadrajet. She's not original anymore, but she works good and a lot of fun, A little bit bitter sometimes than splitting wood or something, I guess.
I bet you it doesn't have a turbo on it.
No, no turbo in this thing here. She's just, it's an older kind of an engine, and I don't really look at the gas gauge too much. I just have a good time, I guess.
Well, you know, turbos have become the buzzword when buying a car. And our Bill Gardner is now going to try and take the mystery out of turbo power.
Turbo is a catchy word that is a short form for turbocharging. It's a process that was invented back in 1905, but is just coming to prominence today in engines. And it's a process using exhaust gas energy to drive a compressor that rams air-fuel mixture back down into the engine. Gives a small engine tremendous horsepower and matching the performance of a much larger engine without all the weight and bulk associated with a big engine. So we're going to show you some of the parts that are associated with turbocharging systems and just how they work to give you that kick in the pants when you step on the throttle. Okay, the turbocharger uses exhaust gas energy to drive the turbine at tremendously high speeds. The exhaust exits the engine through this exhaust manifold, through this pipe here, and we're going to remove it. It enters the turbo right here and strikes the blades of the turbine wheel and drives it to tremendously high RPM, as high as 130 to 140,000 RPM. Goes through the turbo and it exits out this pipe here and back into the exhaust system, just as a regular car would from here on. This unit here is the wastegate that controls the amount of turbocharger boost. And this end of the turbocharger here is the compressor end. And this compresses the incoming air-fuel mixture and rams it into the engine via this port here, right back down into the intake manifold. Well, a turbocharged engine can have a kind of a Jekyll and Hyde personality. You can have big engine power, but you'll pay for it in increased fuel consumption when you use that power. You'll also have to service it more frequently, more oil and filter changes, and increased costs on maintenance because of that complexity. On the positive side, it can give moderate fuel economy if you drive reasonably, and you'll sure appreciate that power when you stick your foot in it. She really goes. Until next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 88.
And now, Behind the Wheel with Charlie Goodman.
Oh, too much lean, too much squeal, too much noise. We're going to have to do something to improve this. Here he comes.
How'd that feel?
Not bad. It was a little vague. Let's get a little more air pressure and see what happens. Yes, just as I thought. It's only 28 pounds. Just like a good athlete, tires must be kept tall and firm so they can dig in and work hard for you. Read the sidewall on the tire. This one indicates the maximum pressure is 35 pounds per square inch. So to make this tire react better for us, let's go get some air and we'll compare the difference. The air in this tank was absolutely free, so if it works, we'll have ourselves a genuine bargain. Let's find out. That's better, not nearly as much tire squeal. Nice and precise, in and out. That's the way a car should handle. Each one of these pylons represents a potential crash victim, and it is significant to note that even though the difference in time was not very much, there's a definite indicator that our car was much more maneuverable with the increased air pressure. Join us next week for a very interesting segment comparing front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive cars.
No, my vehicle does not reflect my personality.
Well, it's my father's car.
It reflects mine.
It reflects his personality.
Well, I think my personality would go remarkably well with a Jag. Now, how about that? Bright red, leather interior, and a handsome bloke by the side of me.
I guess I haven't bought the car that reflects my personality yet.
Still ahead on Motoring 88, revving up for the Molson Indy.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. The engine in the new Quaker State Porsche Indy car develops 750 horsepower. That's why it takes Quaker State oil with new QSX to protect it. At 11,000 RPM, engine temperatures soar. Quaker State's new advanced QSX formula is proven to run clean for unbeatable protection. And the new QSX formula that protects this engine on the track is the same Quaker State you buy right off the shelf. Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Well, they tell me you can't visit New Brunswick without visiting Magnetic Hill, and that's where we are. What is Magnetic Hill? Well, they tell me it's an optical illusion, but this is what it's all about. I'm standing at the top of the hill, right? Well, who knows? That's where the optical illusion comes in, but the bottom line is these cars are in neutral, and they're coasting uphill, or at least that's what it looks like. You saw it here first on Motoring 88. Right now we're going to head a little west to Toronto, where they're gearing up for the 3rd annual Molson Indy. And our Steve Grant tells us that this race is quickly becoming one of the most successful on the Indy circuit.
Having Teo Fabi's Quaker State Indy car in your dealership driveway is great for business, but there's a lot more to it than just selling new Porsches. It's this type of aggressive marketing that has put auto racing in the same league as football and baseball, and the Molson Indy is no exception. It should take less than 2 hours to complete the 103 laps at this year's Molson Indy. But before the engines come to a complete stop, a huge Indy marketing machine will be fired up once again in anticipation of next year's race.
You know, it's interesting. We do our pre-planning really back in September of last year, and the plan that we've pulled together seems to be working now, and it's coming right on schedule.
The marketing plan includes giving a Porsche dealer his first ride. And it provides shoppers with an interesting diversion.
Would you welcome back to podium number 2, Mr. Michael Andretti. Michael.
But here's where the real hype begins, as a steady stream of drivers become salesmen for a week. The product is the city of Toronto, and of course the race.
This race, I think, has become one of the premier races on our circuit, I feel. I think it's very professionally run. I think Molson has done a great job in promoting it.
I think this is one of the favorite stops on the circuit as far as most of the teams and drivers and everybody that's concerned. It's one of the friendliest places we stop at, I think. The spectators are very knowledgeable people. We enjoy the racetrack. It's a very good racetrack, very smooth.
The track, the job that everybody's done here for the Molson Indy is tremendous. It's very difficult to take a street area or a convention area like we've got, or a park or whatever, and turn it into a good racetrack. It's good for the spectators. They can get right in it, and it's got something that I think all of the tracks in the world strive for, and that's atmosphere.
Actually, the drivers have become a great ambassador for the event. And as you know, when they travel across the United States, and it's totally unsolicited, that they support the Molson Indy, and it's shown in the results of people coming in from the United States to see our race.
But it's more than just Canadian hospitality that keeps the drivers so excited.
I think they have a really nice layout of a racetrack. It's a very challenging track.
Obviously, on a course like this, you have some very tight sections around the little buildings and so forth. But then you've got some fast sections on here, too.
You have fast corners, slow corners, long straightaways, so it makes it really challenging.
Here, you're braking, accelerating, changing gear, I don't know, 30 times a lap and stuff like that. There's a constant movement, left, right, you know. And so physically, it takes a little bit more out of you on a track like this than Indianapolis.
Next to me, it's going to be, you know,
to get a better idea of the track's characteristics, Motoring 88 decided to go for a drive, and we brought along a very qualified tour guide, three-time Indy 500 champion Rick Mears. Now, the first turn you encounter on this track is, I wouldn't say a sharp right, but it's a quick right-hand turn. Heavy traffic going in there.
It is pretty quick, and it's one thing good about it. It's very wide leading into it, and that's this is one of the best, probably better passing places on the racetrack. Very wide. You can set up different places, and when you're running by yourself, you protect yourself. You run way out here to get a quick line through the corner.
And of course, you come out of this turn and you hit probably the longest straightaway on this course.
Yeah, it is. It's quick, and there's a nice radius there. This sweeper leading into this corner. It's really pretty difficult. You swing out here next to the wall, and then you've got kind of a double apex through here where you swing out and then come back down across and meet just kind of, the apex right down, and you clip the corner of this wall, and from there, or actually from about here, it's wide open all the way through it. It's good. It's a good straightaway. It's got a couple little dog legs in it like this. But it is good for passing because it's long enough you can utilize the guy's draft a little bit and slingshot him a little bit right at the end, and try to set him up to go into the tight right-hander at the end of the straightaway. And then you've got a pretty good braking area right here that you stop, which is another fairly good place to pass if you can get a jump on a guy off that tight corner.
You have a long memory when it comes to racetracks. In other words, we're only heading into our third year of the Molson Indy, but you seem to. It's all coming back to you now, it seems.
Oh yeah, you do. After you make that many laps over something, it sticks with you, especially the parts that get touchy. They stay with you longer than others. This is another corner here that's very good. This corner is just a dog leg, but you got to figure you're coming off that corner back there in third and fourth gear, and then you're reaching fifth and possibly sixth by the time you get here. And this is a wide open dog leg, and as you can see, it's not real wide down through here. So it's that corner tends to get a little bit touchy from time to time also. And this is just, you make kind of an S out of this straightaway. You come off to this side on the exit, and then you swing back over to the right to set up for this next left-hander leading on toward the front straight.
Well, Indianapolis champion, Penske team almost dominating the kart series this year. Good luck to you in the Molson Indy.
Thank you very much. We'll be here, and we'd like to get a road course under our belt maybe.
Well, before we wind up our show from New Brunswick, I have a confession to make. You are looking at a frustrated fireman. I cannot go by a fire hall without dropping in. And where I am is at the Dieppe Fire Hall, just outside of Moncton. And over here is the chief, Chief George Basharesh. And George, I saw this fire truck out here yesterday. Now, you don't see one like this. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, the truck is a Bickle Seagrave, 1942. We acquired this in 1962 from War Surplus in Nova Scotia, and it's been in operation ever since. The only thing is we ran short of space in our fire station and we had to put it in storage. It's been in storage since 1982, and now we intend to restore it, paint it red, and put it in parades and activities that goes on in our town. Plus it can be used in the event of a fire.
Can you show me the engine here? It looks very impressive.
It has 12 cylinders. It has 24 plugs, 2 carburetors, and it's a very, very smooth operation engine. It was built by Bickle Seagrave.
I got a favor to ask of you. I've always wanted to get in a fire truck and motor off into the sunset with the siren going. Could we do it?
You do it in one condition, that you put a helmet on.
I'd love to.
Okay, sir, come right over here.
the Chief. This is great.
If you have any questions or suggestions, drop us a line at Motoring 88, 379 Danforth Avenue, Toronto, M4K 1P1. Motoring 88 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Ready to go, sir? Let's go, Chief. Okay.
Brad, the only thing I forgot to mention is that the red lights on the truck are not working properly.
But the siren works, and that's good enough for me.
You're good.